Praise the Lord, my beautiful, blessed souls. I'm back with another word. Woke up today, was in the word, just kind of going through my day. And I just want to read something. It is gracious provision. God does really care about my daily needs because a lot of these things, this is surrounding when it comes to us living in this world. The last video I was talking about, what was it? Grief. And a lot of times grief has a lot to do with anger. As you can see, anger denial, I think it was bargaining. So we want to break these things down. We want to get into what goes on. And a lot of it has to do with provision or the way that we live our lives, see our lives, want our lives to be. And because of these reasons, and we see that's why there's a lot of strategy, culture, marketing, when it comes to provision or the way people live their lifestyles, and it's for a reason. And we talk about money and having or not having, and that being major issues and major parts that can play, good or bad factors. And then love and love languages and how people, present themselves as far as when it comes to love, and being dependent or codependent, meaning upon people, places, and things when we're supposed to be codependent upon God. Now, I hear a lot of people talk a lot of things about the church, scripture, how people are handled. And yes, a lot of that it is a lot with that. There's a lot of church hurt. There's a lot of stuff going on in the church, whether it's the marriages, the church itself, how it's governed, how it's ran. Yes. And so we're not going to sit here. I hear a lot of stuff about men and women, race, colors, and creeds. We're going to discuss it. We're going to get into it because when we look at a lot of stuff, now I'm going to go from, because culturalistically speaking, I'm a Black woman in America. Everyone lives in different places. Now, just because my experience is more than just my experience, I want to look at it from my opinion, my experience, as well as looking at the world and the biblical standpoint. So that's what I'm doing. And to try to help one another get to a place to where we can see what's going on. We know it's demonic spiritual warfare as well. So everything is not just in the natural, but everything is not always spiritual, meaning always the spiritual reasoning behind it. Everything is not always. And I think when it comes to the religion or religious people and religious practices, this is what they have known and been doing. And we must understand that that's not necessarily the right way. We can have our ritualistic practices, which is wonderful, but God does not love you or treat one or the other better or not better because of it. I've said this before. And He loves us all. Are we treated differently in certain situations? Yeah, because even I treat my children. I love them all, but treat them different. So all the stereotypes with the men, the women, it's just a lot. But we want to look at the biblical things and try to look at it and, really come to terms with what exactly is going on. Because everyone has, valid points and positions and statements, but we need to get to what is going on and why and get to the root of it. But we have to be honest on both sides as to what's going on. So now I'm going to read this and want to get into it. A lot of it has to do with provision. And so because God says we're not supposed to love money, we can have money, and He says in His word, for a rich man to go to heaven, it would, be easier to thread a needle, But my thing with that is it's not that God doesn't want us to have money. What He's saying is the love of the money. Now, we're going to get into two other spiritual biblical principles, and we're going to talk about them, and we're going to see how they overlap, and we're going to walk this thing out. Now, this one says gracious provisions. Does God really care about my daily needs? And everyone wants to know that. This is a part of our daily life. We must learn to distinguish between wants and needs. And that's a big thing because everything is not a need. He said He shall supply all of our needs, not every want. And this is another thing that we get confused and mixed up. When we understand what we truly need and see how God provides, we will realize how much He truly cares for us. God doesn't promise to give you a lot of possessions, but He does promise to help you possess the character traits that reflect His nature so that you can accomplish His plan for you. He doesn't promise to preserve your physical life, but He does promise to keep your soul for all eternity if you pledge your allegiance to Him. So now the one thing I would say is Philippians 4:19, God's response. So this same God who cares and takes care of me will supply all of my needs from His glorious riches which have been given to us in Christ Jesus. So this is what we're talking about. Why it's very important. Because survival here and a lot of things that is going on is about people surviving. God didn't mean for us just to survive. He meant for us to be able to live here. So this is another thing. And when we are with God, this is where the transition begins. Now remember also, they ate from the tree of good and evil. The knowledge of it. So you're never going to have one without the other. That's why I tell people all the time, nothing is ever going to be perfect. We are not perfect. And it's never going to be perfect until Christ come back. We're perfected through him. So now, 2 Corinthians 9, 8 through 9, God will generously provide all you need. Then you will always have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others. Because remember, you're supposed to love God and then love one another. Remember, those are the commandments Christ, came and said. But that will cover a lot of these things that's going on. But because the love is not there, this is why we're seeing it. But we don't know love without God, like I said before. We have to have Jesus in our life to show us how to love because we don't know how to love. Our version of love is very distorted. And it depends on the lens we're looking at it. And when we're looking at it from this standpoint, this is how we see where we are and how we got here. And it is by design because Satan doesn't want us to be right no way. Then we always have everything you need, plenty left over to share with others. As the scripture says, godly people give generously to the poor. This is another thing. Their good deeds will never be forgotten. 2 Corinthians 9, 8 through 9. I will be your God throughout your lifetime. Until your hair is white with age, I make you and I will care for you. Isaiah 46:4. So now when we look at these things, we must pay very close attention because I'm going to get back into it. Like I said, love is a choice. Because we all have a choice if we want to love God or if we don't. We all have a choice if we want to love each other or not. Now, the Bible says this is what we're supposed to do. But do we do it and do we do it the way we're supposed to is two different ways. Because our version of love, like I said, once again, is not necessarily God's version of love. That's what this whole thing is about. So now, a lot of this has to do with anger and all of these things because we have the grief part that we have to face first. A lot of things that we wanted to do or tried to do in our lives didn't go the way we wanted them to. A lot of us may have been rejected or, in life, a lot of things may have gone on. So when we get to this point to where we're angry, we're going through all these changes, now we're angry with ourselves, we're angry with the world, we're angry with God, we're angry with people, places, and things about what is going on. But we have to take apart all these layers like an onion and see what exactly is going on. Get to the root of the situation. One, we don't have God in our life. We don't have Jesus in our life. And if we do, we don't have him in a state of what we should, our mind towards him the way that we should. And so that distorts it. And that's why a lot of church hurt and other things, because we go based off of what other people, places, and things have told us or said to us about him, instead of us looking it up and finding out for ourselves. So I tell everyone to go and have a relationship for yourself. Open up your Bible, ask questions, look in, and do things for yourself so that you can have, because you can't get to heaven on other people's salvation anyway. Okay, so now that we got that out the way, let's get into this because this is very important. So provision now. People tend to think, that because provision or making money, like I said, a lot of times people feel and think because they are making money, this gives them the okay to just do what they want to do, meaning they don't have to have integrity. They don't have to abide by the, love each other, love God, and then love one another is, Christ loves you as we're supposed to, as we love ourselves. But see, it's certain things that we would or wouldn't do because everybody's not the same. And when we look at this, as me personally, I'm like, we gotta treat people how necessarily if they want to be treated. Everybody's not the same. Everybody didn't grow up the same. And people have triggers. So you will want to get to know the person, get to know their triggers, get to know what goes on with them. Not to say that you have to tiptoe around them, but so you can respect them and have a decent relationship with the people, because everybody deserves respect. Everybody deserves to be treated, properly. So we're going to look into this. We looked at the stages of grief. I think I ended it with that. And then this new year and everything that's going on. So here we're going to look into it. The classic stages of grief we already talked about was denial, anger, which was this can't be real, emotional numbness, shock, disbelief, feeling disconnected. Denial protects us from being overwhelmed all at once with these situations. So anger is a major one, because we can be angry about a lot of different things and not even realize it. Anger is also a spirit. For those of us who do deliverance, it is a spirit, but it's an emotion. It's attached to the spirit. Anger at the situation, anger at people, anger at God, anger at ourselves, anger at the unfairness of it all. Anger is in the mind is trying to make sense of pain. Now they say suicide is anger turned inward. Homicide is anger turned outward. So this explains a lot. Like I said, we go through the bargaining. If I only had, could have, would have, should have, did something different. Trying to plead and bargain with God or negotiate with life about things, which we sometimes do. And we have to, sit with it. And then it's depression, deep sadness, emptiness, withdrawal, fatigue, loss of motivation. This is the weight of reality setting in. Then it's the acceptance when we finally go through the process, not being okay, but acknowledging what happened, beginning to rebuild, finding meaning again. But when you don't go through this, you just continuously have a lot of built up stuff. So that's the grief. Now, the set of expanded stages of grief is more acute for real life, which is shock, denial, anger, bargaining, testing, and rebuilding, because that's another one. Because testing to see if you can rebuild or how to rebuild is another one, and accepting integration. This model recognizes that healing is a process, not just a moment, which is what we're talking about. The lineage layer, how grief moves through families. Sometimes we have inherited grief, families pass down unspoken losses, trauma, suppression, emotions, survival patterns. We discuss this. Sometimes we're grieving the things that our ancestors never processed. Sometimes, too, is lineage silence, when many families teach to be strong and don't cry, move on. But we don't have time to really sit down. And sometimes we don't. And we don't talk about that. This creates generational emotional numbness. We talked about that. Lineage repetition, unprocessed grief becomes anger, fear, anxiety, distrust, emotional shutdown, relationship patterns. So grief that isn't healed gets recycled, and this is why we're talking about this. And then I'm going to go further in, and we're going to have some more, dialogue. Lineage healing, when we grieve honestly, we break emotional suppression, generational silences, inherited trauma patterns of avoidance. We become the one who stops the cycle. But unless you, actually go through the process, it's just going to continue on. We call that what? Spiritual curses, spiritual inherited generational curses. That's how that goes. You pass on these same habits, thoughts, patterns, and cycles throughout your life, not just you, through your children, whether you realize it or not. So the spiritual layer, how grief shows up in faith, is denial. God, where are you? Anger, why did you let this happen? Bargaining, if you will fix this, I'll do this. Depression is I feel abandoned. Acceptance is you were with me the whole time. Grief can shake faith, but it can also deepen it. So it depends on which way, we looking at it. A lot of things we go through in life, we have to just this is what I say, we got to sit down and really do the work. So community as well is also shaped by loss, violence, instability, poverty, systemic injustice. Grief becomes constant, layered, communal, generational. People grieve people they lost, their opportunities they never had, the safety they never felt, the dreams they had to bury. And this is where I talk about loss. You see what I'm saying? So we will grieve these things. This is why grief in its context is not just emotional, it's structural. So the truth about grief is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of love, memory, and humanity. Grief is process, journey, it's a cycle, it's a teacher, it's a healer, it's a transformer. So we don't, get over grief. We just grow around it or grow through it. It does affect your body. It does affect your relationships. We discussed that. And we're going to get into this Philippians, how, grief or anger and grief and all of these things, because depending on where we are in life, we may or may not, we may be grieving over God's provision or whatever is going on in our life. Like I just said, that could be many different things. But it all goes back to Philippians 4:19, 2 Corinthians 9-8, which God shall supply all our needs. So now we are focused and busy a lot of times with the wants. See, a lot of stuff, that, especially Black culture, because it's like, it just tears me up inside that folks will kill you over a pair of Jordans or want to fight you. It's foolishness. It's like, it's crazy. But this is the value, and they have this sense of value because during slavery, they were buck broken. We were, we went through a lot. So it broke us. And because it broke us, like they said, and I talked about this in Let's Make a Slave, the mentality of, whether you're rich or not, you want to feel some type of pride, some type of, in yourself. So generally what people do is go out and buy and want to look more, rich, or if that's what they want to call it, from buying these expensive so-called things that these people put in front of us to make us think and feel like we're more in all actuality, we're not. Because you may have those clothes on, but if you still living, the way you're living, and you really can't afford it, then what is the point? But this is the mentality of it. Okay, so And when we look into, and we're going to keep on going with this, spending habits and all of these things, whether you was tight with money, whether you was, loose with money, whether you were a workaholic, whether you, whatever it was that your, what they call it, your, what they call it, not the obsessions. What was it? Hold on. Not obsessions, but let me see, because I don't remember. Yeah, I gotta go back and find it. I know it was written down. What did I do with it? I had wrote them down. The 10 things of codependency. And let me see, what was it? Okay. Compulsions are. So compulsions, whatever your compulsions are, you could be a compulsive eater, meaning you could be a OCD person, got to be clean all the time. You can, but it's just a factor of control, meaning having some type of control, because there was no control. It was dysfunction. There was, that was the norm in your household. There was no safety, or as far as you were concerned, because everyone's, bar of these things as to, and this is another thing, just because someone provided something for you because it wasn't to your standards of what you wanted doesn't mean they didn't do it. And this is where we have this going on. That's why people say your truth, my truth, but there's one truth. And the truth is on both ends what actually happened or did not happen. Everything else is a lie. So let's get into this. So now, and that's how they distort things to make you think, oh, well, there's his truth, her truth, my truth, but then it's either truth or it's the lie. It's not in between. So now, Philippians 4:19, this is a brief, accurate summary. It says, God shall supply all your needs. So when we don't trust God to supply all of our needs, and we think we're going to go out there and play superhuman, and most people think they're gods and all these other things, and they worship everything but the creator, every creation but the creator, this is where we get. So God will supply all our needs. Summary, Paul teaches that God himself provides for every need. This is spiritual, emotional, physical, financial, spiritual, out of his abundance. Now, grief, meaning when grief empties you, God fills the places that loss created. Now, when we look at these things, remember, when God said he supplied all your needs, it wasn't wants. And then, like I said, a lot of times people equate what they want, and they didn't get what they wanted with what they needed, because God and people, places, things may have not given you everything you wanted, but you got what you needed. And this is why you have to be careful. And I said it before, even when you're dealing with these people, places, and things, you must understand, 1 minute Christ was coming in and they was praising him, and the next week they were hanging him. And this is how you can get that, because the moment people feel like they haven't gotten, whether they put that great expectation of what they charge you with doing for them, then that becomes a problem, and you become the great monster, of course. Lineage, meaning your lineage is not abandoned. Where previous generations lack, God supplies. So generational healing, this verse breaks down scarcity mindsets. Remember, this is about provision. And because culture and all these things have the hustle mentality, no matter what you do, but I'm going to get into it because love is the main factor. People can chase money all they want to, but at the end of the day, even when it comes to children, they looked at the studies and they showed children who didn't have love, in the household growing up, they had provision, but they didn't have love. And a lot of us had to do this for so many reasons we've discussed. And it's not to say that it's right or whatever. No, it's not. But what it is folks did what they had to do with what they had. But we're going to look at it and see how it worked out. Because folks will be workaholics chasing a bag, but everything else is left. And when we're talking about safety, feeling safe, feeling secure, being not rejected and all these other things, these is where the grief comes in, the anger and all these things. You see what I'm saying? Because your children act this way, your spouse, your job, whatever, because folks feel like you're supposed to meet every need. God is the only one that can meet every need. So I'm sorry to burst every bubble. And God himself, he'll meet your needs, but he's not going to meet all your wants. Okay, and then we have to break this down, because everybody just think, oh, if I'm with this person, with that person, or if I'm doing this or doing that, everything. No, when you go to your job and they tell you what to do, because it's your money, you listen and do what they say. This is like your husband telling you, or the wife. This is even with the children. They will argue with the parents about the parenting. But when you go to your job, it don't matter. It's his house, and what he says goes. When you in jail, when you on the street, when the cop pulls you over and all, this is what I'm talking about. So when you talk about rules, people don't like rules and they don't like regulations. And that's why being saved is a hard thing, because there is rules, there's regulations, there's ways we're supposed to live this way, everybody. But folks are not living that way because they choose and don't want to live that way. This is where we are with it. Oh, I had to get that little fly because honey. But anyway, so now, healing and what, like I said, depending on what it is, how it is, and what people saying and what they got going on, could be so different depending on, and you have to hear both sides of the story, because hearing one side, you would never actually know what's going on. Generational healing, this breaks scarcity mindset, fear of not having enough, inherited anxiety, survival patterns. It says your family story of lack ends with me. Why I'm looking at these things, God makes all grace abound, meaning 2 Corinthians 9:8-9. Paul says God gives overflow grace, so you have everything you need to do every good work. He also references the righteous person who gives generously and endures. So endurance means there's going to be some stuff going on, right? Okay, so that doesn't mean it's going to be, and this is where we have to learn. So when it comes to people, places, and things, some people, places, and things are worth fighting for and some are not. Why? Because, and we have to know the difference. Why you fight for some of them, you love the rest, and you love everybody. But some of them you want to keep around because you can have falling outs and you can still be together. But then it's some who is just diabolical and you might just want to get rid of them. Grief meaning grace meets you in every stage of grief, not just to survive, but to keep moving. Lineage meaning your lineage is shifted from depletion to abundance without withholding, to generosity, from fear to overflow. Now, generational healing, the verse that breaks generational stinginess, emotional shutdown, fear of giving or receiving love. This is what this is about as well, because depending on where you are, you may or may not, when I'm talking about the receiving, being able to receive, being able to do that. Patterns of self-protection. This is what this is and how we're going to navigate this, because we're still supposed to guard and protect our hearts. We still got to live here on earth, and we still supposed to follow, Christ, meaning live like he did. But we have to figure out how to do that practically, because God didn't tell us we couldn't live and have a life here. Christ came so we can have life more abundantly right here on earth as it is in heaven. So we need to figure out how to do that. And this is what this is about. So grace is now our inheritance. So now, Isaiah 46:4, I will carry you even to your old age. Summary, God promises to sustain, carry, and rescue his people from birth to old age. Okay. Grief meaning when grief makes you feel weak, God carries you. When you feel too tired to keep going, he holds you. Lineage meaning God has been carrying you, your lineage longer than you know, through trauma, loss, migration, survival, in silence. Generational healing, this verse breaks abandonment wounds, father wounds, generational fear, the belief that you must carry everything alone. It says you are not the only one in your lineage together. God is. So holding it together, right? Because this is where we leave God out. He is the glue that holds everything together. He's the foundation. Now people say, and like I said before, I get it. There's a lot that goes on with, and church hurt is true. It is what it is. It is not something that is alive, not something to be taken lightly or swept under the rug. It is not. How 3 verses work together in grief and lineage. Philippians 4:19, God provides for the needs of grief, exposes. For the needs, grief exposes. Wow. 2 Corinthians 9:8-9, God empowers with grace to keep going and keep living and giving. Isaiah 46:4, God carries when you cannot carry yourself. Together they form a threefold promise. God will supply what grief takes. God will give grace for what grief demands. God will carry you through what grief breaks, and for your lineage. Provision breaks generational lack. Exactly. Grace breaks generational hardness. See, the hardness of the hearts. Why? Because it keeps us in the we don't want to love, we don't want to this, we don't want to that situation. We want to be angry, we want to be mean, we don't be, hard. We want to have resentment, all of these things. So this is where this is. Carrying breaks generational abandonment, this lineage restoration packet. So now we need to look at anger. Anger, which I said is emotion / spirit / emotion. Anger comes with, and I'm going to read them out for you, abuse, agitation, aggression, animosity, annoyance, being annoyed, anxiety, arrogance, belligerent, bitterness, burden, chaos, control. Can be critical, death. It comes with death, meaning dejection, depression, destruction, disappointment, disappointed, discouraged, displeasure, distress, embittered, enraged, exasperated, fears, frustration, fury, generational. This is grief, hate, hostility, impatience, indignation, intimidation of others, intolerant. It's judgmental, malice, mad, murder, out of control, passive, pouting, pride, provoke, quick or short-tempered, rage, rebellion, resentment, retaliation, revengeful, sadness, seething, self-destruction, self-hate, sorrow, stern, meaning cross, stormy, stubborn, sulking, silent, anger, tantrums, touchy, troubled, undisciplined, unforgiving, unjust, upset, vehement, vengeance, venom, vexation, violent, and violence, irritation, and wrath. So this is what all of that entails. So when we see these and we see these traits, spirit of anger, anger as an emotion and as a spirit. Why? Because we have emotions, and God says you can be angry but sin not. So it's just how you go about handling these things. Now, when you have this anger that is in you from things you've grieved or haven't acknowledged and haven't actually taken the time out to grieve over, that becomes a problem, because now the lens you're seeing thing out of is a totally different lens as well, and it's rejection. So now it's this. So it's grief not done, anger from things not met, whatever it needs were not met or you feel were not met in your life or wasn't to your standards and approvals, because it's not just needs, but it's usually all of these wants. So love has got to be the thing that's going to replace it, because codependency is the whole, but the whole is love, but the whole is from God. It is not from people, places, and things. This is what this is about. So loving God first and your neighbor, this is the scripture that Christ gave. So remember that loving God first with all your heart, mind, and soul, and loving one another. Remember, Christ gave these scriptures woven into the same lineage, focused, spiritually intelligent framework. So when we're doing these things and we're doing them properly, we wouldn't have the chaos that we have going on. But because we don't know how to do it, because the way we're seeing the world and the way we're loving is not the way we should be. And a lot of our lenses are distorted towards God as well as towards each other. And this is how we end up where we are. So the key structures are the greatest commandment, the love of God first. This is in Matthew 22, 37 through 38. Jesus teaches that the greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. That's the first thing we have to. Why? Because then God is going to heal you and clear out all of this stuff. Why? Because from the time we were born, Adam and Eve in the garden, we were already born into sin and iniquity. So we already had these things from babies, whether we actually committed a sin, actually did anything wrong or not. They already birthed into us. So now, God has to, as we're growing, even more stuff going to pile up, and we're not dealing with it. And we need God to do this, and we're pushing God away. We don't want to be bothered with God. We want to be bothered with everything else, and this is the problem. So now, meaning loving God first is not about emotion. It's about alignment, identity, and priority. Because a lot of times we think things as emotional, and we take it and we run with it when it's actually not. Just like they think love, it is an emotion, but more than anything, it is the glue that holds us together, and it's more than just an emotion. So we're going to look at it. Lineage meaning it's a covenant. When you love God first, your lineage realigns, generational idols break, inherited patterns lose power, your family tree shifts its direction. Why? Because you're going to be doing what God is showing you to do. He's going to teach you. He's going to love you first, which is going to in turn show you how to love him. And then in turn show you how to love others. So this is where this is about. So generational healing, this commandment heals abandoned wounds, identity confusion, spiritual disconnection, generational fear, all of this anger, the bitterness. We have to go through them all. We have to look at the envy, the jealous, the lust, the trust issues, anxiety, abandonment. All of these things we need to get into. We need to look them in, and we need to go through them. Why? Because this is how we're going to go through the process. Okay, the second commandment is love your neighbor. This was in Matthew 22:39. Jesus said the second commandment is like that of the first, loving your neighbor as yourself. So you're loving God and then loving your neighbor as yourself. So when we look at this and we look at provision and God provided, right? And we look at the way the world is running, we see how things get thrown off. Because it's not about every want, it's about the need. Because if you don't get everything you want, although you got what you needed, you'll say, oh, well, I didn't get no, but you got what you needed. See? So now, this is with your parents, this is with God, this is, and this, let me tell you, it took a lot for me to get here, because I'm going to tell you. So now, Meaning love others flows from loving God, right? You cannot love people well if you're disconnected from the source. Now remember, this is one of the fruits because remember the gifts and the fruits are what was it? I said I'm good yesterday. Oh crap. My mind is everywhere. I'm sorry, y'all. But y'all know the fruits of the spirit, the gentleness, loving kindness, self-control, patience. Okay, I'm sorry if I don't get them all. I did them the other day, my bad. But so now, in order to have those, you have to have these, which is to loving God first. Putting God first with all your soul, heart, and mind. Remember, every aspect of your life now, that's in your mental, emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual life. You're supposed to love God and love Him first. So that's not money, that's not your job, that's not your kids, that's not your husband or your marriage, and that, no. Right. So now, putting God first, getting rid of all of oaths, covenants, contracts, boom, get them away. And vows and oaths or whatever that we've been doing and the curses and all of that. And then it's loving, because you can't do that if you don't love God first. And then you can love others. See what I'm saying? So now we're going to get into that part. So now that's the only way you can love other people. And a lot of people are saved in the church. They don't have love. And even whether you're in the church or saved or not, a lot of people don't have love, don't know how to love. This is what this is. Most of us do not know how to do that and how to do it properly. We say we do. We got all these counselors, all this. And a lot of them, they can tell you the 12-step programs. Without Christ, it's not going to work. That's why you see even in the church that it's not working. You know, marriages break up there too. Why? Because something is missing. What is missing? The God factor, the foundation, the Jesus factor. Because you can't love. Christ came and died for us. Unless you're willing to put your life on the line for somebody, that's not love. So the love we have is very conditional. I'm sorry to tell everybody. We say we want unconditional love, but no, we want unconditional love while we have conditions. Say that. Let's make it plain. And that's not the way to go. Because if you want unconditional love, you're going to have to give it. And this is the factor that a lot of people just do not understand. Anything that you're requesting or asking or demanding from other people, you yourself must have to give. Because you cannot request it from somebody else, and you don't have it and can't give it. Or not willing to give it. So let's move forward. And remember, we all got choice. Love is a choice now. And nobody's forcing you, making you no. God gives us choices, even with Him. So now, you cannot love people. And this is why we see what's going on, because if the love for people would not have the world the way that it is. If we had God and love God, then no. Because there's certain things you can't do when you love people. In your marriage, and your friendships, and your job, or wherever. Let's just be real. Let's just be honest about it. Okay. Lineage, meaning this commandment heals generational conflict, family division, inherited bitterness, community fragmentation. It restores relational patterns in our lineage. Now, remember our environments too, because if you live in places where that's, we already have certain things put in place and certain things that's going on, that's going to be another issue, So folks have to know that they may have to unpack baggage together. When it comes to your jobs and other stuff, you have to, you have to swallow stuff at your job. You're going to have to swallow stuff with your spouses, your children, you're never going to just completely get and have your way all of the time. Everything's just going your way. Wonderful. Things is not going to be smooth, roller coaster, picture perfect. It's not. Okay, we talk about how we got here with the men and the women. They talk about, the women look like this, they look like that. Listen, the women started changing the way they look when men started changing who they were chasing after. Why? Because the women were regular when that was in, and then the moment that wasn't in and they were cheating and doing whatever with the women who looked like the blow-up dolls, that's when everybody wanted to start, and that was what they were promoting. They want to run around looking like the Barbies. This is what this is. So now here we are. So now that's a problem. But you see how emotions, how feelings, how culture change. But God's word stays the same. It doesn't matter. Love your wife, honor her. Oh, if folks had to die for adultery and all these other things, honey, they wouldn't be running around doing what they do. But because, grace and mercy abounds with us now, and they don't have to be stoned to death. Oh, trust and believe, folks was not about to be running around with all these women if they was gonna get stoned to death. Now, God has consequences, and it's gonna be so. And divorce, was allowed during most of the time. God is not a fan of it, but He allowed it, to be done. Now, is it something He necessarily want? No. But, we're not going to make idols of marriage either, because that's another thing people tend to do too. Make idols of marriage, make idols of relationships, make idols of people, places, and things. God doesn't want you to make an idol of these people, places, and things. You put them before him. You put that man or that woman, when he gives them to you, before him. And that may be why you ain't got them or you ain't getting them. Why? Because that's not what he wants you to do. That money, that job, that business, you run off and put it before him. As soon as God bless you with it, you forget God and you go run off about your business and you forget it. So generational healing, loving your neighbor breaks cycles of isolation, distrust, survival mode, emotional shutdown. It creates new relational inheritance. Now, this is what we have to do. Now, this is not going to be an easy thing. We know the world has a lot going on with spiritual and natural people being used, and it is what it is. Guarding your heart still. Loving, but guarding your heart. This is like the balance. I'm trying to figure these things out. Living here, not of the world, in the world. Loving without, loving, but guarding. You see? It's like you got to find that, So the law and the prophets hang on these two. Matthew 22:40, Jesus says, all scripture depends on these two commandments, meaning everything God teaches is rooted in loving him and loving people. So if you don't love people, because I'm telling you, loving people and liking people might be two different things too, because God has to help me with that. And lineage, you know what I'm saying? Just be honest about it. You have to forgive, you have to love, but you don't have to like, you don't have to be around them or be with them all the time. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, we got to figure this out. We got to ask God to help us with these things. We got to figure out how we got to live here, because it's like, I ain't trying to go to hell for you. I'm just not. But it's like, well, Lord, I need you to help me. So we got to get to the nitty gritty of these things. Lineage is healed when love becomes a foundation, relationships become healthy instead of dysfunctional, of course, and God becomes a center. Now, it's not to say that it's not going to be perfect, because it's not going to be perfect. This is what we're not understanding. Even marriages when you are saved with the Lord, they are not going to be, you are two different people. You're not going to agree on everything. You're not going to get along with everything. You grew up totally different probably, because usually that's who we attract, the total opposite of who we are. They say we attract who we are. No, we do not. We don't like who we are. We like different things. Other things. So that's who we attract. So now we're so excited about these other people, places, and things, because it's so wonderful, it's different, it's exciting, and then until it's not. Emotions are very fickle. They change from day to day. Please understand these things. You can love their socks on 1 minute, the one day, and the next minute can't stand them. This is what this is. It's a spiritual, it's an emotional, whatever you think you want to call it, it is. So that's why we can't lead our lives off of it, because we'll be up and down. This will be a roller coaster for sure. No, shouty. Little shouty. It'll be a roller coaster. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Just so... So Philippians 4:19, God provides. You can love God first because he meets your needs. Corinthians 9:8, God empowers you. Can love your neighbor because grace overflows. Remember the cup that overflows. The love of your tank is, and this is why we talk about codependency, when you are not loved properly, completely as children. People can only give you what they have. Your parents can only love you to the capacity that what they have and are able to give, or what they receive themselves. They cannot give you any more, any less. Whether you like it or you don't like it, it is what it is. You can give what you have to give, and know and do what you have know to do, and that's it. And it may not be to your expectation, your great expectation of what you wanted. And you may not have gotten everything you wanted, per se. I might have got some of the things you wanted, but you got what you needed. And this, and even everything you needed might be a problem, because we're not God. We're humans. See? God has to help us with this. So Isaiah 46:4, God carries you can love through grief, because God carries you together. They form a love cycle. God loves you. You love God. God fills you. You love others. God sustains you. This is the healing of lineage. And this is what I was talking about. So now, like I said, so anger is a lot to do with these things. Now I talk about anger, I'm telling you. So the lineage framework, we're angry because we're not getting what we want. It's a lot of times it's not a need, it's a want. And it's the expectation of what we wanted. Like I said, we rejected God because we rejected Christ. It wasn't what we thought he was going to be. It wasn't what we wanted. He provided what we needed, but it wasn't what we wanted. The lineage framework, loving God, loving neighbor. A loving God first heals the vertical lineage, identity, purpose, spiritual inheritance, generational curses, covenant alignment. Then loving neighbor heals the horizontal lineage, family relationships, community patterns, emotional wounds, generational conflict, and inherited distrust. Together they restore the whole lineage. This is why Jesus pairs them, and they are inseparable. Now, communities shaped by survival, trauma, injustice, loss, and distrust. These commandments become liberation, healing, community restoration, and generational transformation. Loving God first breaks internal chains. Loving neighbor breaks external chains. So now, like I said, I was looking into the sculpture of it all. Like I said, loving God first and loving your neighbor. Now, anger is often rooted in disappointment, loss, or feeling abandoned. And this is what I'm talking about. Whether it was anger because you didn't get everything you wanted, but you got what you needed, or you got some of, a mixture of the two. This is, because folks' expectations be ridiculous sometimes. And it be crazy how much they want from you. And then they themselves may not even have the half of that. I mean, you will have men online, I'm just using this as an example, talking about what they want in a woman. I mean, you can hear them in jail talking about they want this, that, but you can't even get a job, bruh. I digress. I'm a need for people to stop, because when it comes to black women and the men in the house, all these different things that they have going on, honey, like I said before, I don't know if you've seen my other video, but I talked about how the Jewish people, there's an epidemic, and which has been going on. They have the most children, and they are on welfare more than anybody. And it was created for them, not us, for them and they people. Folks didn't get segregated to 1960s, I believe it was, when, what's his face? But even Martin Luther King, but even before that, honey, they was fighting for segregation. They was fighting for slavery, for rights. Child, why? We weren't even considered to be human beings. That's why it says it was deemed for those who were worthy during the Depression time. The people who were poor, it would depend on what type of poor, who you was, if you got it. And it sure wasn't us, because we ain't never been on the top of nobody's totem pole. So it was not created for us. Now, are we on it? And did we have to be on it? And these men keep talking about all of this foolishness with the kids and child support. Child support don't come to the women. That's 2. Number 3, it goes to the government. When it comes to most of these men in the house and all that, and them not having, I keep hearing that too. I'm so sick of hearing about it. First of all, most of the men live with them same women on them Section 8 vouchers and all of that. And they went in there and wanted to cheat on her and do a beat on her, come and take over, wreck and rule her in her own place, in her own stuff, and ain't have really nothing else to offer her but a whole bunch of rules of what they want to come in and tell you about. And then when he want to run around with other chicks and do all this and have babies and other chicks, listen, ain't nobody about to put up with a whole bunch of stuff. So we're not going to sit here and just say, oh, well, it's because the man wasn't in the house rule. That's some full of it crap, because most of them men were still living with them chicks on Section 8, whether they was on the lease supposed to be there or not. Probably selling drugs at house, got to put out Section 8 off and everything. So I'm going to need y'all to stop that. We're going to put a stop to all of the madness. Please go check your files. 1932, 33, the Great Depression, that's when they created welfare, Section 8 and all that stuff. And it wasn't for us. And to this day, there's more of them on it. When you look up the Jewish population, and they don't stand in the line where we are. And they driving them Honda Odysseys, and men got all this money, and they on welfare. Please understand they getting Medicaid and all of that. Please, if you look up in New Jersey, they got it talking about it. I ain't got time, but we gonna go digress. But because it's them Jewish people and the other folks, everybody else who come here and get whatever they need, it's never an issue. But they only make it about black women. I'm so sick of it. Bitterness usually comes from long-term hurt that was never validated. And that's another thing with security. We angry and bitter at men and women and at ourselves and what's going on because of what goes on in this world. Because the kingdom and system, Lucifer, Satan, the devil, is in play, and because people are used to play their part, which they're used in their hearts and minds with racism, hatred, and Satan uses that. It's already there. That root is there. That seed is there, and he just uses them because they're already like that. They already don't like you. They already got a problem with you. So Satan knows it. So they're gonna be the ones that's gonna come after you. Because they already got a problem with you. What better person to use? You can't use a person that like you or love you unless that changes. See? So doubt grows when life feels unpredictable or prayers feel unanswered. And this is where, this is a spiritual thing. This is a a relationship thing. This is a God thing. This is a us thing. Whether it's relationships, doubt grows when life feels unpredictable or prayers feel unanswered. And it's something that because we think that God is a microwave where we can dial him up. He's a genie in a bottle. We just rub him in and we get what we want. And that's not the way that this goes. Fear makes surrender, just like with your parents. Listen, it doesn't work like that. Fear makes surrender feel dangerous. And surrender means to give power. So giving God your power, giving Jesus your power, surrendering to him and letting him have control of your life. Yes. And that's just like submitting to a man or anybody else. Why? Because you people are capable, as we see in pulpits and everywhere else, empowered of being what? Unruly, abusive, abuse of power. And we see it. But you wouldn't be abusive of power if you had the love of the Lord and you love God more than you love everybody else and you love your neighbor. Because if you did that, then we wouldn't have that. So let's get into it. Trust issues often inherit from family patterns of betrayal, instability, and or abandonment. And this could be family. This could be yourself. And all of us have them because this world is just the way it is. And Satan loves it being just the way it is. Now, I ain't going to say everything is like I said, Satan demon. But I'm not going to say that doesn't play a big part and that they're not there and they're not running around doing what they do too. Because trust and believe, they are there and they do have you quarreling and conflicting about things that you should not be. Why? Because if there's already some stuff, resentment and anger in there, that little seed is about to become a whole tree. By the time them demons get finished retching around with y'all, both of you. In your household, outside your household, with your kids, with other people, places and things. I'm telling you, no support system. This makes you feel like you must carry everything alone. And this is one of the things that a lot of, Black women go through, especially. Why? Because as we can see, we are the hated among hated. Between the white people kids sucking on titties and taking care of them and our little kids and the mans and the white man and the black man. Because, they was dipping and dabbing, let it be told. We just get treated like purity crap from everybody. And it just needs to stop. It just needs to. Now the black man, he goes through his fair share. But if he would stop doing a lot of the stuff that he's doing, a lot of that wouldn't go the way it's going. Now, I ain't going to say every black woman, every woman is, I'm not, because we got our issues with us too. And I'm not going to sit here and say, because I gave what I got in every situation I've ever been. Sweethearts, I dealt it like they dealt it. You understand? God had to do some real changes in the check with a lot of things. Because I'm going to get you, I'm going to get back at you. I'm not going to let it rock. I'm going to make you suffer pay type of person. Baby, eye for an eye, two for two. I'm going to get you. I don't care what you did. You hurt me? Oh, boo-boo. Especially, you just watch and see. And when I say it, you better understand I meant every word. And anybody know me? Oh, yeah, you going to get guys. So I used to say, it's always more than one way to skin a cat. And I'm going to get them skins. That, what God got to, see, that's the anger, the bitterness, God got to help take that out. This healing journey is a process, baby. So now lineage meaning, especially when folks always want to bash you, don't want to help you, don't want to help you do nothing. They always got an issue and a problem and complaining about everything you do. But they don't want to assist. So they want every need and want they want met, and then they don't care about you and yours. That becomes a problem after a while. Everybody gets tired and enough is enough, sweetie. Let's go. Lineage meaning, these are not random emotions. They are generational survival strategies. Your lineage learned the patterns to protect itself, but they block intimacy with God. And this is what it is. It blocked intimacy with God. It blocked intimacy with people, places, and things that you want to have them with. So that's the covering over your heart. That's the shield. We're supposed to guard, but we need to know when to put it up and when to put it down. This is what I was talking about. Who to get rid of and who, just having a bad day. Y'all just fell out about some things that ain't that serious. And you keep them in your life because it's based off of more than just one thing. You know what I'm saying? So, lineage meaning these are not random emotions. They are generational survival strategies. Our lineage learned these patterns to protect itself, but they block intimacy with God and they block the blessings because that's where the blessings going to flow. Okay. And if God is going to send you people, places, things, you have to be open, meaning that gate cannot be down and sealed shut. The love. Because the love is supposed to be in you to flow from him to you and overflow. But if it's closed, it's blocked. And that blocks the good and the bad, meaning the blessings and the love along with the wicked. So we got to pay attention. God has to help us with this. Loving our neighbor, what blocks it? These patterns make relationships very, very difficult. Envy and jealousy. And they say these are spirits. I say spirits and emotions come from comparison, scarcity, and feeling unseen. We have a lot of this going on, and this is why people feel like they have to look a certain way, have a certain stuff, and if they don't, then they're not enough. That comes into the money. I'm going to get into that, and the wealth and feeling better or more than, and the love of it, because it's chasing it down as if you can just do certain things because you have money. You see people do things and they don't go to jail because they have money. God never said that. That's not. You see what I'm saying? This is in the power and all of that and the abuse. This is where that comes in at. Resentment comes from carrying emotional weight alone. Bitterness comes from repeated disappointment. Fear and anxiety makes closeness feel unsafe. Exactly. Trust issues make connection feel dangerous. Why? Because if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel like nobody has your back, if you don't, and you always got to do, this is what you're going to have. You don't have a support system. This is what you're going to be. So when they talk about men and the women being the way they are, especially black women, we had no choice. It's certain things we had to do for survival. Because if not, where would these kids be? You say they terrible? Okay, well, they would be worse off than that. Everybody got so much to say, but who was there to come help take care of little Johnny? Little Pookie. Did you come and pick up little Pookie and take him for the weekend? Okay, well, shut up. Please don't tell me that. Did you help pay a bill if I needed it? Did you help do anything? All that you did was complain. You sat on the side, point your finger, and you complained to everything, monitor everything, complain about everything. Listen, people don't need that. I'm sorry. And whether you a man in the house doing the same thing or you outside, it doesn't matter. Men, women, children, whoever, because the children will complain just as much. And everything you do is still going to be a problem. When is it ever enough? Like I said, this is where we got to get this together. So, lineage meaning your family may have passed down emotional walls, distrust, survival mode, don't depend on anyone. Love gets you hurt. These patterns block your neighbor. Loving your neighbors. Exactly. No support system creates emotional exhaustion and isolation. And this is what a lot of people go through. This is why women tend to be by themselves and certain women, certain ages. And God doesn't want us to be this way, because how can you love people? How can you be a blessing to them if you're isolated? So it's like you got to learn how to live here, guard your heart, okay, and still be loving to people. And you got to figure out how to maneuver. Ask God to help you maneuver, because this is where I'm at. Like, Lord, I need you to help me. I can't sit in the house and not be around nobody. And whether they saved or not. And because Christ was around both. So it's like, but how do you be around people and love them and care for them, not offend them, not treat them badly? You see what I'm saying? Not treat them with the love of Christ still, because this is what this is about. And this is where the church hurt come in, where it's the religious and the rituals and they did this to Christ. When he came and he couldn't heal and he couldn't help because of their rules and regulations, see? And we have to stop that. And then behind the scenes, they still do what they want to do, and they anger and bitter and it's got to stop. And you're preyed upon, whether you're in the world or in the church, whether you're male, woman, female, child. It's like, come on now. In every way, they will prey upon you as a mental thing, manipulating. They'll prey upon you financially, spiritually, physically. Like, come on now. Emotionally, please. Please. So how does scripture add to these answers, these emotional patterns? Philippians 4:19, God supplies all your needs. This speaks to your anxiety, your fear, your insecurity, your lack of support, your scarcity, your comparison, and your jealousy. So you don't have to fight for what God already promised to provide. This is where we have to relax and rest in what God has provided. See, the problem is a lot of times we are not satisfied with what God has provided. We don't like it. We feel like it's not sufficient. We want more. This is where that ungrateful, we go through it. We want more. Everybody got this. We want it too. The church, the world got this. The church want to do the same. They got the gangster rap and we got Christian rap. We got this. See, it's the same. Corinthians 9:8, God gives overflowing grace. This speaks to bitterness, resentment, emotional exhaustion, feeling empty, and feeling unsupported. This is what that. So the grace fills the places where grief drained us, and that's what God does for us. Isaiah 46:4, God carries you. This speaks to anger, abandonment wounds, trust issues, fear, anxiety, and feeling alone. Meaning, you are not the one holding your lineage together. God is. And that's the blessing in it. Because no matter what happened before, with whatever people place to think, when you run to God, he is going to help. Because most people are not. They're not going to come around till you get built back up. That's when they want to be bothered. When you were broken and struggling, you were the talk of the town. They couldn't stand you. They don't like you. They got every issue and problem with you. And this is that. And whether you was the greatest to them or not, or in between, it doesn't even matter. That's why the applause and all that could be 1 minute, and the next minute it will be gone. That's why I can't pay attention to it. I can't. Because one minute you'll love me and the next minute you'll be trying to stab me in the back. Like I said, I done had chick up the street who was sleeping with my husband. We were close. We were, honey, really? Okay. Child at my house all the time. Y'all screwing. Honey, are you serious? I knew her people. And the embarrassment of it all. You see what I'm saying? So when I say I done been through some things, folks, listen, I am so good. I just need God to heal my heart from the things I've been through. Because don't think sitting here talking to you right now over the screen, don't think that it's, it's not, nah, this ain't been no, I just sat in the church in the pews all my life. Nah, this was the Gangsta Boogie, the coldest winter ever book. This was a mixture of Precious and all the rest of them. I'm going to tell you, it ain't nothing light around here. Ain't nothing light. Nothing. And I asked God, why? Why do I have to go through so much? Everything. I got to experience it. Why? Can you just your strongest soldiers got to go through some. Can I be over there on the benefit package of I'm going to be blessed and not stressed package this year? Because I'm just for real. So how these scriptures heal the emotional patterns. Anger, God carries your pain. Isaiah 46:4. You don't have to hold it alone. And this is what we have to do when we're releasing. Okay, we got to start releasing this stuff. And it's blocking our blessings. It's blocking God. It's blocking our next, season, the transition part. This is the wilderness to the promised land. Yes. Bitterness, grace softens the heart. 2 Corinthians 9:8, grace breaks the hardness of the heart. Got to cut that out. That's what the new heart. The new mind. Envy and jealousy, God supplies your needs. Philippians 4:19. You don't have to compete, because God is going to supply, doubt. God's faithfulness is consistent. Isaiah 46:4. He has carried you since birth. Exactly. He knew you before you were born. Fear. God provides and protects. Philippians 4:19. Fear loses its power when needs are met. And that's the thing, because everyone's here trying to meet needs. I'm going to give you something before we leave. Resentment. Grace empowers forgiveness. 2 Corinthians 9:8. You don't have to give from emptiness. Ain't that something? Because folks they will suck you dry. They will have you give from emptiness no matter what you're going through. As long as you're good enough to give and provide for them, take whatever it is that they need from you, they will. And they will leech and they will completely deplete you. You have to put a stop. That's where guard your heart comes in. That's when you have to put that up. Because God calls you to give, but not to be emptied out and not to be just completely demolished. No. And that's in any area of your life, whether it's work, whether it's your friends, whether it's your spouse, your children. I don't care who it is. It doesn't matter. Whatever people, place, and thing. And remember, everything ain't for everybody. Anxiety, God meets every need. Philippians 4:19. Anxiety is often fear of lack. Exactly. Trust issues, God carries you. Isaiah 46:4. He is not like the people who failed you. And this is where we want to compare God to our parents. But God is not one of our parents. He's God. He's not. We're in his image, but we're not him. See what I'm saying? So he is the Omni. He's the Abba, the Alpha, the Omega. He's the Jehovah, Rapha, Nisi, Shalom, Melchizedek, Tediscanu, he's that. So we have to really, and I myself, because I'll be sometimes I'm like, Lord. And I don't know if it's that. I think at times he doesn't want you to run off with the blessing and leave the blessor, because a lot of times we will run for the blessing. When God blesses you, you run after the blessing and leave God. He's the blessor. You love the blessor. You chase the blessor, the creator, not the creation, not the blessings. And that's how you put things into alignment. So having money, having wealth, having all of those things is not a problem as long as it doesn't have you. When you're willing to do any and everything for it, that becomes a problem. And most people, it don't matter. They will lie, cheat, steal, sex, manipulate, lie, kill, everything for it. I'm just telling you, these people feel like, to get a bag, to get a bag, to get a bag. I'm a hustle, but lie and cheat, steal from these people. If I know, they could know you're a pyramid scheme. Take your money. Thank you, right over here. I got you. My bag. See? Child, I'm going to tell you. And stock market and the Bernie Madoffs and all the rest of them. I mean, they ain't the only ones. This was already, I just live in this world, honey. I didn't make it, baby, okay? I'm just navigating like you, honey. So, no support system. God himself becomes your support. All three verses speak to this. So, this is what this is. The lineage framework for what God is doing this year, 5,786. This is the Hebrew year. It's about cutting away old cycles, opening new gates, restoring what was broken, reconnecting what was lost. These emotional patterns are the very things that God is cutting away. This year here is a year where anger softens, bitterness breaks, fear dissolves, anxiety lifts, trust is rebuilt, support is restored, lineage pattern shifts, and this is not random, it's timing. Remember, because we're all learning, and we're going to get there at different stages and times in our lives. We're going to go through different things. Everything ain't for everybody. Moving from place to place, state to state ain't. You take your problems, your issues with you. You got to figure out what God has for you and where your alignment belongs, and whether it's making money out of it or not, because sometimes you may make some money out of it. I've been doing this channel almost 2 years. It'll be in April. I haven't made not 1 cent off this channel since I've started. And it's not, and I'm not saying that to be like that. I just recently put my Cash App and stuff in it. But for me, it's about more than that, because with God, it's about more than that. You see what I'm saying? People will say, oh, they willing to do this, but what are they? You know, are people willing to stick behind you when they don't see anything that they're going to get out of you right that minute? And see, this is where, you know, all of this comes in with the love, because people will take it and miscommunicate that and manipulate it and, you know, want to control it and want to do all these things. And then, you know, the help that was there for them, they abuse it, they use it and toss it away. And then they go run to something else and say, oh, this was a problem, the issue, the place. Yeah. But then they get with the new thing. And then they think that, oh, well, that new situation was so wonderful. But then they get over there and they see they still got issues over there. It's never going to be a place or people, whether it's a job, nothing, where you're not going to have any issues. The 80-20 rules at your job, at your friends, at your family. And you're going to get some of what you want out of life. Not everything. So all of this, the anger, the bitterness, we have to let it go, whether it's with the person we're with. We got to do this, and we have to do this on our own time. Why? Because before we have children, before we already got issues, we already got baggage, we already got stuff going on. This world's already happening. Okay, but by the time we do have them, by the time we do want a relationship, by the time we do get with people, depending on how these things go, it can be a good thing or a devastating thing. And like I said before, a lot of people nowadays, it's not even just about love, it's about help. And see, being with somebody because you need them and being with them because you want to be with them is two different situations. Usually when you no longer need them, you move forward, you know, and you get yourself together, you use them, and you go on about your business. And that's how you know that that was a using situation. So the iterated meaning, here's the whole thing in a sentence. These emotional patterns that block love, they do. They block love. There's anger, bitterness, envy, jealousy, doubt, fear, resentment, anxiety, having trust issues, and lack of support. They are the exact same patterns that God is healing this year through his provision. Philippians 4:19, his grace. 2 Corinthians 9:8-9, and his carrying. Isaiah 46:4, so we can love him first and then love our neighbors freely. So once we do that, now I talk about the lack of finances in the hustle culture. Now, lack of finances is the emotional, a lineage part layer. It's a big one. Emotional, spiritual, systemic, generational. Lack of finances put people in fear, shame, exhaustion, survival mode, feeling unsupported, feeling forgotten, feeling behind, feeling like you must carry everything alone. And in any families and issues of financial struggle is inherited and it's not chosen a lot of times. Why? Because usually if your parents is poor, they don't set up anything, you will be. They don't leave life insurance. They don't leave if they leave a bill instead of a will. All these type of things. We see the GoFundMes. We see all of these things. This is what happens now. Like I said before, marriage is a way to have wealth. Why? Because when you are married and you are together, you can accumulate wealth when you have two income households. This is why, you know, God wanted us to be together and work together instead of alone. One person should not be carrying all of the weight. Now, we can sit here and argue this back and forth about women and men and all of this, but when folks get in their right positions, which is men being men and women being women and them handling what they need and the women being to help me, then we can move forward and have these conversations. But both have issues on both sides and they're both valid to a certain degree. Because a lot of times these men be doing a lot of stuff. Now, I ain't gonna say it's always the men, because I see certain issues where it was the woman who just wasn't about nothing, then, you know, and that becomes a problem too. But we're going to look into this lineage patterns that create financial lack, scarcity mindset, fear of taking risks, Fear of abundance, generational poverty. Now, one thing I will tell you is with the fear of risk, I'm not going to tell you to quit your job and go get you a business. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that. Or quit your job and start a YouTube channel. I'm not going to tell you that. You keep your job and you do what you need to do on the side until it becomes more. Don't let people do that. Generational poverty, systemic injustice. We see that all the time in this world, especially for Black and brown people. Lack of financial education. Trauma that interrupts instability. That's that educational piece where you got to pay to learn any and everything because information is, you got to pay for it. There's a lot of stuff I'm giving out. People pay for it. I'm giving it for free. Why? Because, listen, God's going to provide. I'm still working. I still have a job. God's provided for me. It is what it is. Trauma that interrupts stability. A lot of what we go through, that's distraction. That's the way the enemy wants us to be. Distracted, non-focused, on anything, and that is a problem. Why? Because you can't get anything done if you always got a whole bunch of stuff going on in your life. Your stability is the main thing. Being forced into survival mode instead of growth mode. This is survival mode. It's hard to grow when you're just surviving. You need stability. And once you get that, then you can start building and growing. Women carrying financial burdens alone. This is it. Causes chronic illness, drainage of resources. This is how their hair falls out. They're looking over before their time, stressed out. Why? Because of so much that they carry. Distrust of institutions. Of course, we know when it comes to this government in this world, honey, I don't know if I would ever trust some people. Financial lack becomes a generational story, not a personal failure. The hustle culture, the emotional and lineage layer. Like I said, everybody's want to hustle, work harder. I'm not trying to work harder. I'm trying to work smarter. While I'm getting up there in age, I'm not going to be running here and there and everywhere. When you were younger, you could do certain things. I lived a lot of places, did a lot of things. That's why I know, living places, just moving in, just thinking that everything going to be wonderful. Every plan you make, please understand that it comes with the good and the bad. Whatever you got going on. Hustle culture says work hard and never stop. Rest is weakness. Rest when I die. You will, depending on where you're going. You might not rest. Your work is your productivity, which is, yeah. If you don't grind, you don't eat. That's another thing. It's like God is going to provide. But hustle culture is actually trauma, fear, survival, inherited pressure, generational over-responsibility, emotional avoidance, internalized capitalism, of course, and the belief that you must earn love, safety, and or stability. This is where we are. This is what we be doing. This is what we be doing. I'm sorry, this is what we be doing. And you know what? And a lot of other people, especially when they come out, don't do this because they not out here buying $500 bags. When you got rent and other stuff to do. See, this is, this. And because you wear that bag, you think that you just, I don't know, Queen of Sheba or somebody. I don't know. I don't get it. I just be trying to understand it. Lineage patterns behind hustle culture. Me, I make my clothes. They don't make me. So I can wear $5, $10 something, this little scarf, this little shirt, whatever, and I'm going to make it work for me. I'm just not about to be breaking my neck, killing myself doing, I'm not getting them people rich and nah. Them people don't know me, they don't care nothing about me, honey. But I'm not going to do that. I don't care what celebrity, what star, the banks, all of that. I'm not doing all that. Lineage patterns behind hustle culture. Ancestors who had to work to survive. Families who never had safety net. Communities shaped by poverty and instability. Parents who were exhausted and overworked. The belief that if I stop, everything will fall apart. Hustle culture is not ambition. It's fear wearing ambition's clothes. And we could say that literally. How these two connect: lack of finances and hustle culture. These two feed each other. Lack of finances forces hustle. Hustle culture creates burnout. Burnout creates more financial instability. Instability triggers more hustle. This becomes a generational loop. Same old patterns, same old cycles, same old thoughts, habits, patterns, and cycles. Your lineage has lived in this loop for decades, maybe for centuries, and we already know where it all started. Let's make a slave. How scripture speaks directly to these patterns. We already brought the right verses. Is connecting to them, which is Philippians 4:19. God will supply. And we must hold on and trust that. And not have fear, worry, anxiety behind it. We have to hold on to that. Okay? And it breaks the fear of lack, scarcity mindset, financial anxiety, and the belief that you must provide everything alone. This verse says provision is God's job, not your burden. Right. Second Corinthians, now you got to get up and do something. You're not going to say you sit home and do nothing, because, those who don't work don't eat. So as long as you are working, God will take what little you have and multiply it and make it much. And that's what that's about, basically. Whatever you have, God, when you go out and do something, give it to God, he will multiply it. And this is how you see some people who have way less live better than people who have a whole lot. And people always thought I had a whole lot. But when you know how to manage your money, your time, all these things, I'm going to tell you, certain people, Miles Monroe, Stephen Darby, Cindy Trim, certain ones that when it comes to, honey, I'm on it when it comes to them, because they give you a lot of insight when it comes to certain things, because they have the insight that you need to manage your life here as well. And it's not, I don't agree with everybody, but I agree with, and even if I agree with some of the things, whether it's the, the word or the whatever, but God has them in their lane doing what they're doing. I'm going to let him deal with them, and I'm going to do what I'm doing. So this verse says, grace is your fuel, not your grind. So that's what that's about. Isaiah 46, and for God carries you. This breaks exhaustion, feeling unsupported, generational pressure, the belief that you must hold everything together. This verse says you are not the one carrying your lineage. God is. Matthew 22, love God first, love your neighbor. This breaks self-neglect, right, overwork, emotional shutdown, and exhaustion, the belief that productivity equals worth, meaning you got to always be doing stuff. This verse says your value is in love and not labor. Why? Because you supposed to labor, but you're supposed to rest. He said, I give my beloved sweet rest. For those who are running around here with their heads chopped off, y'all ain't getting no rest. You say I'm about to look younger than I have been. Honey, I'll be 47. I got 4 kids and 3 grandkids. I am good. Shoot, I would have been married. It'll be 11 years in April, but we've been separated. But honey, I'm good. Met in 2012, married 2015, been single and separated since 2019. Honey, listen, hallelujah. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I thank God for it all. I'm learning, loving, and learning from it. The generational meaning for this year: cutting away the old cycles, opening new gates, restoring what was broken, releasing divine breath. This means this is a year where God cuts the hustle culture off of your lineage. A year where God opens financial gates your ancestors never saw. A year where God restores what lack stole. Is a year where, God breathes rest, provision, and stability into your family. This is not random. It's a lineage reset year. Now remember, sometimes you have to become the curse in order to break the curse. Don't let that go over your head. Remember, Christ had to come, and he had to die upon the cross. He had to become the curse to break the curse. Don't let that go over your head. Don't tell them it's a little tea piping hot off the runway, baby. I'm just going to give it to you just like that. The tea is piping. The lemonade is better, but the tea, when you mix them together, that on the bottom is good. But anyway, community shaped by economic pressure, systemic injustice, generational poverty, survival mode, lack, safety nets. Hustle culture becomes a shield. Lack of finances becomes a wound. Now, when you out here doing all this stuff, put money to the side, do other things. This is what this is about. Folks don't do that. This is a problem. God provides, God empowers, God carries, God restores. Philippians 4:19, 2 Corinthians 9-8, Isaiah 46:4, Matthew 22. This is liberation, theology in real time. And remember, a lot of this stuff too, we got to understand. We want to know everything. God wants us to know it on his time. Science and all them things had us doing a bunch of things we weren't supposed to be doing, getting involved with things we shouldn't have been, learning and doing things we shouldn't have been doing. The Nephilims and whoever else was doing all of that too. Now, what I had wanted to talk about was becoming a Scrooge. Now, depending on what type of person you are, becoming a Scrooge, meaning having no love in your life, just focused on money and hustle and this and that. Honey, that is not the life God intended for you either. I'm just going to be honest with you. You're supposed to have family. You're supposed to have, be fruitful, multiply, and all this, replenish, and all these things. So that is a loveless life. If everything is about $1 and that's all you're doing is $1, and every time you turn around it's about $1, and folks just about $1, I get it. We need to make money. We need to have our needs met. We need to have finances. We do. But as you can see, God is going to provide. Now, how you're providing, manipulating, lying, cheating, stealing folks, and getting over, whenever you are in any type of power situation, abuse can come in any form or fashion. This could be mental abuse, it could be emotional abuse, it could be physical, financial, and or spiritual. We are seeing it in the world, in the church, throughout All of it. We are seeing how people who are over you, who have more power, who have more education, strength, whatever, and they are weaponizing everything. Sex is a weapon, education is a weapon, finances, money, emotional, mental, manipulating, controlling, all of these things, whether it's people, places, and things, spirits, as well as the spirits are using the people with their emotions and whatever they got going on towards you to do these things. And this is how you will find a lot of things are going on. Now, Scrooge was a one from the Christmas Carol. He wanted money. And depending on what it is you want, you're going to chase it down. This could be anything. You got the hoarders, you got the spenders, and it all shows what they had or lacked in their life. If you are spending, is a lot of times you were chasing money. You probably grew up poor. You didn't have it. You didn't have nothing. You got so much to prove now. So you just, you got to. If you had issues with self-esteem and all that, you got to go change yourself around and make yourself the top model and all this and all that. Yeah, you got to be pretty now. You got to be this. You got to be that. If you were dumb or, whatever, you as a man, the jocks got to go work out and make themselves look better and be better. This is what we're seeing on steroids, on overload. Whatever they were not or did not and lacked and did not have, this is where we're seeing everywhere. And even more so us, because we were denied a lot of things. So that's where you get the running to other races and doing the this and doing the that because you never had, and that's luxury, or they put it in front of you as luxury. Like I tell people, child, the Real Housewives of Atlanta or anywhere else ain't got nothing on me, because if them folks was to ever have to walk a life that I actually had to live, baby, they wouldn't be able to live it. And they can sit up there and we can do the Real Housewives of Section 8 and everything else. And baby, I can tell you, if they follow me around and my people, baby, they will learn some things. Because the coldest winter ever. And like I said, Precious and all the rest of them little gangster movies, Honey Boys in the Hood, what's the other ones? Ain't had nothing on a New Jack City. Love Jones, whatever, Love and Best. Honey, please. Empire was cooking them, and see what they did was they took and they made it that. And that wasn't always the case with us. Because if we look back, there was a time when we were dressed, we were this, we were that, families were together, they loved each other. Now, I ain't gonna say a lot of that with the in the church, because a lot of them, they even women back then put a lot of mess on the men because they didn't have a choice. Why? They weren't able to work, they didn't have no rights, they didn't this, they didn't that, so there was just a lot going on. And they just stuck around. Why? Because he had a whole nother family across the street, in the church, out the church, and all this. So when we sit and we look and we think about them talking about the men and the women situation, most of the times what has happened is, I'm gonna tell you, the women got tired of that. And now that they have rights and they're able to do stuff, they not being bothered with that no more. All of that just cook, shut up, sit down, and be quiet and do what I say and not as I do ain't working no more. Whether it's with the kids, everything, it ain't flying no more, because they don't watch you, and now they don't watch you, and they became better at you at it. So be careful with who you trying to fool, because sometimes you got to play the role of the fool to the fool who think they fooling you. Don't let that go over your head, Bookie. So why they think they schooling you until you become the master teacher and you show them how it's really done. Because while you thought you was doing so much, baby, let me show you something. You thought I was just going to sit here and we just going to continue with this? God told me to love everybody. Forgive everybody. Do I have to like everybody? Still working on that. Well, do I have to like everybody? No. So I just want to put this out here. Like I said, the Scrooge thing is real. Let's just make $1. Let's just do this. Let's just do that. Because when you think about these men and these women and how this goes, usually a woman will be with a man, whether she has nothing or not. Now, a man being a woman that ain't got nothing, 9 times out of 10, that's not going to fly. Usually, especially if he's a man of power and got something going on with himself. He ain't even going to, first of all, they not even going to put up with half the stuff that women take. This is why we these conversations that I be hearing all of the time about us being up under them, and child, ain't nobody up under nobody. Because everybody just basically doing what they want to do. Regardless, the kids doing what they want to do. They ain't getting their way, then you terrible. They got issues and complaints. Then if you ain't meeting their wants and their needs, okay? You just the genie, you just Jesus, you just God. You supposed to save everybody. You supposed to help everybody deliver and restore and heal them too. You can't turn the hoe into a housewife, but you supposed to take this little jailbird dude and turn him into an honest, like, come on now. I mean, I'm just so over all of these back and forth scenarios. Because y'all will go get the stripper out the club and leave the wife you had or the woman you had or whatever you want to call it. And then have all these kids all over the place and then want to go take her and then wife her and do all this. I just be trying to figure that out. And then you talk about the kids, you gladly take your kids you know ain't yours, but then the ones that are yours, you talk about child support and anything else because can't see you, can't get the dime and those. I just be trying to figure this out. And the child support ain't going to the woman. It's really, unless she got a whole heap of money she making, she ain't getting that, it is going to the government. So you can go holler at them about that. But anyway, you want to talk about how you live and all that? Listen, I'm so sick of hearing it. And then the same folks that want to tell you about it, they will cuss and fuss you and tell you ghetto, but then they just as ghetto. Because how you going to tell me about some stuff for you? Because I can cuss and fuss too. But at some point, are we going to move forward and not be doing all these crazy stuff? Now, I get it. Some areas, issues, I still, have some stuff going on too. God got to deliver me too. But it just gets to a point where sometimes we just got to be like, well, dang. We getting just a little bit too over some stuff. I'm saying. And after a while, it just be like, okay, well, it's time for me to change this. And people can change when they're ready, when they want to. God's, giving them the time frame, and He, is working with them, and they can and will do change when they feel like it. And the same men, turn around and go do everything, be all they could be for the next woman that didn't do nothing. But then they complain about the ones, oh, she wasn't this. No, she didn't let you do everything you wanted to do. Rules and regs with everybody. See, rules and regs. Folks don't like rules. They don't like regs. Everybody just want to be, I feel, I love, I do. Like, I'm free to do everything. I'm free to have and be. If I want to be a man, I'll be a man. If I want to be a woman, there's nothing. Now, we're supposed to love and we're supposed to respect and honor and all. Yeah. But then there's just like, and if I don't agree, I'll listen. But if I don't agree, if I don't like it, I'll listen. I'm going to tell you my opinion. That's going to be that. We don't have to agree. We don't. Listen to you, okay? And some stuff you may say is valid and some stuff you may not be saying is valid. And when it comes to biblical, a lot of people, when we get to biblical, a lot of it is just contradiction anyway. Because it can be, we feel like this, but then, we want to be relationships. But then when it comes to relationships, if you're not married and you're still having babies out of wedlock, then what are we doing? If we still shacking up, what we doing? We want God to bless us and bless it, but what are we doing? Now, God will work with you till once you get started. But, yeah, eventually, it's got to be some type of change. And that's where the fruits come in at. It's not going to be an overnight process. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it is. But eventually, you'll start seeing some changes and other people willing you in your life, and it will happen. But for the most part, like I said, the makings of a dollar. Please understand what all we doing, getting the dollars. Dollar is cool. But the love of the dollar will send you straight to hell because you'll do any and everything for that dollar, baby. I've seen people where they, have pyramid schemes and they'll bring you in and have you get the money and then go about your business. All kind of stuff. Now, I know we all got to make our money. We all got to, yeah. But it's just certain things we don't have to do. Or you mistreating people at your job or, under you, above you or wherever, in life. They ain't got it like you got it. Or you feel like you above them for whatever. You got this, you got that, whatever. Whether it's the education or the house. But baby, like I tell people, be careful because, honey, I'd have been up, down, all around. I am who I am. I treat people how, I used to treat them how they treat me. God is working on everything. But for the most part, I'm trying to get out of that now. And I try my best to, at least try to treat people always with respect and dignity or whatever I do. It's issues I have. You rub me the wrong way, you might get the wrong side of me on the wrong day. God working on me with that too. I got attitude. I got, a mouth. I got issues with me too. I'm human. God's working on me too. Every day ain't a great day. It ain't a good day. I'm not sitting right here walking around just with my little handkerchief, on my lap every day like they with the fan from the Sunday in the church. No, I'm not doing that either. But trying to figure out this life and how to live it, how to be here and be productive and be in my purpose and my assignment and be able to give and pour back into whatever I do have to give and to others. And that's it. So like I said, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're going to get into a bunch of these other things because we're going to continue on with this. I know this week is Resurrection Sunday. I hope they still ain't in them churches with their Easter stuff, their Easter mess. Because, honey, like I said before, Folks be talking, honey, if I see you got one Easter basket, one Easter, anything talking about some Easter, and it ain't Resurrection Sunday, I'm just like, I'm done. Because after all of this, us seeking the knowledge to get it supplied, what are we doing? We still on that? Because I grew up in it. But then when the kids got pregnant and all this other stuff, that fertility, sex, right? Right. Y'all want them to go abort. We ain't even gonna talk about that. The church folks. We ain't even gonna talk about that. Abort the babies, don't hide the kids, don't let them be known that they pregnant, send them south, hide them out, whatever. So, and then you the talk of the town because you ain't never gonna be this, that, and the third. So like I said, it's not even funny. But I'm gonna let this one go. We are bruised and not broken. Be blessed in Jesus' name. Like I said, we are at anger. We done went from grief to anger, and we're gonna keep on going, denial and all these other ones. And we're gonna get through this, the bitterness, the envy, the jealousy. We're gonna get through it because we need to walk through it. Okay. Also, want folks to come to church and wearing dresses down to the ankles. These folks in there, you could wear a burlap sack, and if them people want to look and watch and want to sleep with you, they is. I'm gonna need folks to stop. I'm gonna need. That's that religious ritual practices crap. You can love people and they not be you know they could be gay. You can love them and you can respect them and you can treat people the way they're supposed to be treated. It doesn't matter. That's for that loving the Lord your God and loving your people. Yeah. You don't have to agree with it. You don't, and I don't either. It's not godly biblical practices. Now, is it for me? Will I be necessarily around it 24/7? Did I have someone like that in my life that I love? Yes. Do I have people like that in my life? Yes. Do I mistreat them? No. If we fall out or something happens, it's because of other things. Anything that I'm distancing myself from people for, it's for other things. It ain't because I changed and brand new and got this and moved on. No. It has a lot to do with the relationship we had before all that. Before all of that. So anyway, be blessed, bruised and not broken. Like I said, we are gonna get through this. I can because working on me with some things, and I'm going through my own. This is my journey, so I'm just letting y'all. I'm trying to be here, and with this journey, and trying to help y'all with it. But be blessed, bruised and not broken. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. God is my provider. If you'd like to donate, you can. But I'm not on here to make money. If I was, trust me. I'd have been stopped a long time ago. It is not about the funds. Like I said, if every pastor and preacher was to not have any funds, I would want to see if they were really called, if they were chosen, if they the ones, and if they supposed to be here, because I want to see. But anyway, love you guys. Be blessed in Jesus' name. Amen.